Good afternoon, friends. In my previous lecture, I discussed the word public, three dimensions of the word public. Then I discussed in detail what is administration, the difference between administration and management. Then I discussed public administration, three dimensions of the expression public administration. Public administration as a set of activities. Then I discussed public administration in terms of institution or the structural dimension of public administration. Then I discussed public administration as a subject matter of study or a discipline, very much like other subjects, psychology or sociology or political science, other subjects. So I discussed the three dimensions of public administration. Today I am going to begin my discussion on Wilsonian perception of public administration. Means Woodrow Wilson's perception, his understanding of public administration. Firstly, you should know, there are the point to be noted, there are certain points to be noted. Firstly, the Woodrow Wilson is known as the father of the study of public administration. Father of the study of public administration. Why? Because most of the scholars in the world of public administration and political science as well, most of the scholars accept that it was the revolutionary essay of Woodrow Wilson, which was published in 1887, the study of administration. It was this essay of Woodrow Wilson that actually, in the real sense, initiated the intellectual process of inquiry and investigation into the world of public administration. What was initiated by Woodrow Wilson, gradually in the course of time, it gave birth to public administration as a separate subject and discipline, having its distinct identity away from political science. So first thing that you need to know, that Woodrow Wilson is not an ordinary person. Woodrow Wilson was the president of America, and before that he was the governor of New Jersey. Then Woodrow Wilson had command over more than one subjects, and then Woodrow Wilson was a great educationist and statesman. So Woodrow Wilson's perception of public administration had a lot of significance for all of us. All students of public administration, they study the Woodrow Wilson's perception of public administration. Why? Because it provides you a basic intellectual disposition wherefrom it becomes easier to understand the dynamics of politics and administration, or the relationship between politics and administration and overall governance. So that's why Wilsonian perception had a lot of significance. So the writing of Woodrow Wilson, the study of administration, it consisted of many important topics. The first one was Woodrow Wilson reflected on the what, how, and why of the government. First of all, we should decide what is to be done by the government and what is to be done by the private entities, private sector. Then Woodrow Wilson discussed the question of administrative science. He also reflected on the development of administrative science in different parts of the world, particularly Europe and America. Then one of the components of that essay, which is very much important, is Doctrine of Politics Administration Dichotomy. This doctrine was propounded by Woodrow Wilson, which I am going to discuss today. But apart from these three components, like what, how, and why of the government, then administrative science, or the level of development of administrative science in America in contraposition to Europe, then Doctrine of Politics and Dichotomy. Then Woodrow Wilson in his essay also reflected on democratic government and dynamics of democracy. He also talked about comparative study as the preferred method of study for public administration, comparative method of study. So he dealt with a lot many things. He also focused on the imperativeness of developing professionally competent and well-organized and disciplined civil services. So he discusses five, six things in his essay. But the most important component, which was given more space than other topics, was Doctrine of Politics Administration Dichotomy. I repeat that Woodrow Wilson's revolutionary essay, The Study of Administration, it marks the beginning of that intellectual process of inquiry and investigation, which in the course of time gave birth to public administration as a separate discipline, having a distinct identity away from political science. It does not mean at all that before Woodrow Wilson, public administration was never studied or administration was never a subject matter of study. But administration was studied largely within the fold of political academic boundary of political science. It was during the latter decades of 19th century that in the given circumstances around public administration, or when the ecological setting around public administration had undergone drastic changes, that the Woodrow Wilson and some other scholars realized the necessity of studying public administration in detail to bring reforms in public administration in practice. So it was in the latter decades of 19th century when the American society was exposed to lot many challenges emanating from the industrial revolution, impact of industrial revolution or commercial revolution, getting a point. Then some kind of a spoil system that prevailed there in American bureaucracy, American administration, or consistently declining performance of private sector because of absence of science of administration and management. So against these kind of problems related to public administration as well as private administration, Woodrow Wilson and some other scholars realized the necessity of studying public administration in detail, and he laid the foundation of public administration, you can say. So public administration was studied, but with Woodrow Wilson's intervention, public administration, public in the real sense of the term, began its journey as a separate discipline or subject matter of study. Up to this point it is clear. Then Woodrow Wilson, in his revolutionary essay, The Study of Administration, where from the process has begun. In this essay, Woodrow Wilson dealt with several subject matters and topics. The first was the what, how, and why of the government. What, how, and why of the government. Second, he dealt with administrative science, the question of administrative science. Then third, politics and dichotomy. Then he discussed the imperativeness of developing professionally competent and well-disciplined civil services. Then he discussed democracy and dynamics of democracy. And finally, he discussed comparative method of study as the preferred method for the study of public administration. Out of these various topics, today I am going to discuss politics administration dichotomy. First thing that you need to know regarding politics administration dichotomy is that there are controversies regarding this this doctrine and interpretation of this doctrine. Some scholars hold the view that Woodrow Wilson, through this doctrine, actually tried to emphasize that the world of politics and world of administration, they work in two different compartments. They are mutually exclusive. There is very little connection between the two. These are two different provinces of activities. And some scholars were of the view that although Woodrow Wilson identified the difference between politics and administration, he wanted to separate it. What it means, Woodrow Wilson emphasized, the difference between politics and administration, but Woodrow Wilson never intended to say that these two spheres of activities, they take place in two different watertight compartments. It means Woodrow Wilson, on the one hand, he tried to draw the line of distinction between politics and administration, and then he also tried to establish how they are interrelated and interdependent. So it means regarding doctrine of politics administration dichotomy, there are some controversies, but today most of the scholars believe that the Wilsonian doctrine of politics administration dichotomy is neither about complete separation and nor about the merger of the two, the interblending of the two. So Woodrow Wilson, he simply said that the politics is the province of the statesman, and administration, public administration, which is the province of technically competent officials. Woodrow Wilson said that politics is the world of hurry and strife, and the world of politics is concerned with policy formulation, whereas administration is concerned with the policy implementation. So accordingly, various statements were given by the Woodrow Wilson, and that's why there are some controversies. But overall, today's situation is this, that if we take rigid view of politics and some dichotomy, that one is related to policy making, the other is related to implementation of policies, then it will not work. This idea is not sustainable. What is clear? And if you say that the world of politics and world of administration, they have distinct identity of their own, but they in togetherness constitute two wheels of the vehicle of government, a vehicle of governance, then it is acceptable. Though they have a distinct identity of their own, but in contemporary times, The world of politics and world of administration cannot be separated. They work in cooperation with each other. Today, we cannot say that the world of politics is concerned only with policy formulation and administration is concerned with implementation of such policies. Wrong. Today, given the complexity of the external environment, given the complexity and technical complexity of various subject matters of governance, it is not possible for politics and political leadership of any country to formulate policies on its own. So in contemporary times, what happens? Public administration plays a very important role not only in the implementation of policies, but it contributes immensely in the process of policy making. So public administration in modern times is concerned with both of the activities, policy implementation and policy formulation. Woodrow Wilson defined public administration as something which is related to detailed and systematic application of law. Detailed and systematic application of law. If this definition is taken in its literal meaning and a restrictive meaning, then it would mean that public administration is concerned only with application and implementation of law. It is not concerned with formulation of laws and policies. To that extent, this stance or this approach of Woodrow Wilson is not sustainable in contemporary times. Then at another place, Woodrow Wilson says that political questions are not administrative questions and administrative questions are not political questions. This is something which need to be understood. When he says that political questions are not administrative questions, what does he want to say? Political questions are generally value-centric questions which are concerned with what of governance, the expression of preference, what is to be done, what is to be accomplished. It is more concerned with visionary flair of the government and how do you see the things 10 years, 5 years down the line. So what dimension of governance is taken care of by the political leadership? Once clear, then once the vision is clear, then it is required to be brought into reality. And how can you bring that vision into reality? It is through the management of the resources. It means the questions related to or the subject matters related to how. So on the one hand you have what, on the other hand you have how. So public administration is more concerned with the management of affairs, management of resources, getting things done. Getting a point? And political leadership is more concerned with policy-centric decision. So political questions are not administrative questions and administrative questions are not political questions. What does that mean? That the political questions are more concerned with values, more concerned with what, more concerned with vision, and administrative questions are more concerned with better and efficient and effective management and utilization of resources, better planning, better organization, better training, better the issuance of order, command, enforcement of accountability, and getting things done. So political questions are to be answered by the political leadership. Administrative questions are to be answered by top-class administrators and the bureaucrats. But this too is not so much sustainable in modern times. In modern times, even to deal with political questions, government gets support from the top administrators, and administrative questions, administrative problems, administrative challenges are not merely confined to the world of bureaucracy administration. It is a matter of interest for the political leadership as well. If something wrong happens in administration, if some kind of inefficiency is seen or some kind of corruption or inefficiency, ineffectiveness, goal displacement, whatever happens in the world of administration, it may be concerned with administration, but it is a matter of importance. It is a question to be addressed by the political leadership as well. Why? Because popular perception of administration as good or bad will have direct implication for the continuance of the political leadership. It means if your administration is not efficient, then the political leadership will have to pay a price for the same. So that's why political questions are not administrative questions and administrative questions are not political questions. These two cannot be sustained over a period of time. Then at another place, Woodrow Wilson says in his essay that administration mirrors the government of the day. So here, Woodrow Wilson is, in a way, Woodrow Wilson is giving indication of the fact that in his perception, both of them are interrelated and interconnected. When he says that administration mirrors the government of the day. The government consists of both political leadership and administrative leadership. So administration mirrors the government of the day. So what is happening in the world of administration? What is happening in the world of administration? It is something which is seen to build perception or to see the face of the government. It means what is happening in the world of administration cannot be a subject matter of indifference to the political leadership. So to that extent, this statement appears to be very much correct. It is relevant even today. So at some places, it is found that the Woodrow Wilson is drawing the line of distinction between politics and administration. At other places, Woodrow Wilson is striking some kind of balance. How the administration and politics, both of them are interrelated and interconnected. It's clear? Then what is their sense? Generally, over the years, there was a lot of controversy. There were a lot of controversy among the scholars, but finally it was interpreted like it is highly improbable that Woodrow Wilson, who was an educationist, and Woodrow Wilson had good command over law, political science, lot many things. Woodrow Wilson had also seen very closely, how administration is practiced. He was the governor of New Jersey, then he became the president of America. So he was very sound as far as academic side of administration is concerned, or political science. And on the other hand, he had closely observed how the administration actually functions. It is highly improbable that Woodrow Wilson would have suggested that they work in two mutually exclusive and two different watertight compartments. So Woodrow Wilson would have tried to convey the meaning that politics and administration, both of them have their distinct identity. In core areas, core content, they are not supposed to interfere in the business of each other. It means political questions are to be addressed by the political leadership, and administrative questions should be answered, on the basis of the principles, the science of administration developed over a period of time. Interblending of the two can create a kind of chaos, a kind of instability. One more thing that the Woodrow Wilson at some, in the same essay had written, that politics is the world of hurry and strife, and administration is like business. It means administration is comparatively stable because it is governed by certain definite, rules, regulations, and principles. Administration moves on something like railway track. Getting a point, there is little room for deviation here and there. So it has a definite set of principles. It is very much like administration, it is very much like business. But on the other hand, politics is the world of hurry and strife. It is the zone of, a lot of ups and downs, a lot of, effervescence constantly taking place. Alliances are made, alliances are broken. This is the zone of opportunism. So what I mean to say that this Woodrow Wilson tried to suggest that politics is the world of hurry and strife, a lot of instability. If politics start interfering, the one who is unstable can make others unstable as well. So that's why there should not be interference of political interest in the world of administration. He actually tried to suggest this. So political leadership and administrative leadership. So politics is the zone of a lot of instability, and this is comparatively stabler zone. But administration ends up losing its professionalism, ends up losing its direction and purpose if too much of interference takes place from the world of politics. And this is something which we can see all around. So you can prove that if politics and dichotomy is understood in letter and spirit properly, considering all the statements, then you can say, although on the face of it, it is not so much relevant today, but politics and dichotomy in many cases hold relevance if it is taken in spirit to mean that there should not be intervention or interference in the core areas of each other. There should be cooperation only. So in that case you can say that politics and dichotomy hold relevance even today. Thank you.